Hello, everyone. I am Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire podcast. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, like this interview, and share it with your friends. My guest today is Michele Blood. Michele was a successful songwriter and rock singer in Australia. And after a near fatal car accident while in the hospital with many serious injuries, she created positive affirmation songs, which not only healed her body, but also took her to worldwide success. She shares the stage and work with Bob Proctor, Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Jack Canfield, and many other transformational authors and teachers. Her latest book is The Magic of Affirmation Power, and her latest album is Create Miracles, Positive Affirmation Songs to Harmonize Your Mind and Life. Michele, thank you for finding the time to join me today.
Thank you, Claudio. Lovely to meet you.
I want to ask you, when you had that car accident, did you also have a near-death experience, or it was just a regular accident which took you to the next level on your spiritual path?
Yeah, no, I didn't have a near-death experience, but I nearly died a few times, but no, not quite there. Just once. I think it was just because of the pain medication was so heavy. I felt myself leave my body, and sort of my back was sort of stuck to the roof looking down at my body. And then when I realized, oh, that's my body, I went straight back into my body, but I didn't die. It was just an experience.
And after that incident, have you completely switched to write positive affirmation songs, or you still had a component of your previous genre?
No, I just, I do, every song I do is positive. It's all positive lyrics. It's either full on just an affirmation to pop music, or it's a positive song. Like Synergy isn't really an affirmation song, Synergy, but it's, the lyrics are very, very positive. Bob Proctor wrote that with me, that song. So
interesting. And have you had a spiritual upbringing?
Oh, I was absolutely in love with Jesus when I was a little girl. I didn't know when I was a little girl. I lived in the countryside in the Blue Mountains of Australia, and we were brought up Catholic. But because I obviously, you know, when you're that young and you're in a country like Australia, you don't know about Yogananda and all these other great spiritual masters and women. I just knew about Jesus. And so I got permission to be able to go to Mass every day with the nuns, because the priest would go to the convent every day and do Mass for them. And so every day from the age of 5 onwards, I went to Mass every morning, and I'd be in tears every time. But then, you know, eventually I stopped that. Puberty hit and I started singing. And I mean, I was singing on television since I was 5 years old, but I took it really seriously for, you know, to start a rock band and everything when I was younger, you know. So I sort of forgot about church and all that sort of thing. I was totally focused on becoming successful and getting a great band together and managing them and writing songs, and that takes years of dedication, and it's a very, very hard job to be an Australian female lead singer touring Australia. It's trying to get the gigs and agents and record companies, but I did it. We became very successful, and but it was after the car accident that I went on a deep, deep spiritual dive and found an enlightened teacher. And I went off the grid for 10 years studying with her and meditating for hours and hours every day. And I took myself off all social media and all that sort of thing until eventually I became awakened, enlightened as well. And now she doesn't teach anymore, but now I teach students from all over the world.
Interesting. And you mentioned Yogananda. I am one of his devotees, and I would like to know when exactly he walked into your life and in what shape, what form.
Well, I was living in Malaysia and I was running Bob Proctor's business and my business globally from there. And Bob and I were creating a lot of events all over Asia. And I was in Kuala Lumpur, and I'd heard about Yogananda, but I hadn't read his autobiography. And then Stuart Wilde, who's also an author who was in England, but a very good friend of mine when he was living in Australia, very well-known author. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was huge. sold millions of books. But he was a really good friend of mine. And I called him one day when he was back living in London when I was in Kuala Lumpur. And I said, what's my next step? I've read Swami Muktananda. I've read, I'm really into St. Teresa of Avila, Sri Ramakrishna, the Gospel of. He said, what about Yogananda? And I said, I've heard of him, but what? He said, you haven't read Autobiography of a Yogi? And I said, no. So he told me to get the blue copy. He said, because the red copy is not the original. After Yogananda left the body, the lady who was running Self-Realization Center, he knew her, and he said she took out some of the stuff because she thought it was too complicated for people to understand and too personal. And he said, but one of his devotees who lives in Canada got the original copy, the original script that Yogananda first released, and it's the blue cover. And so Stuart Wilde said, get that one, which I did. I ended up reading both of them to see the difference, and I could see where she edited out Yogananda. It's like, what? Who does that? But more of his personal stuff that he was talking about with who is it, St. Paul? His main devotee who helped build the Realization Center and funded a lot of Yogananda stuff. Anyway, and when I read it, I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was just in love, and I felt Shakti. I felt light coming down through my face just reading it, which is the same thing that happened to me when I read Swami Muktananda's book too, Play of Consciousness. It's really interesting that these people have been gone for so long, but from their words, you can still get a rush of Shakti from reading from an enlightened teacher. And Yogananda was a Mahasiddha. He was Big Daddy, you'd know as a devotee. So I just thought it was fascinating how he toured the world looking for other enlightened people that he could, hang with and get to know, and worked out whether they were really, truly, awakened, or it was just some sort of thing with the mind, because the mind can create anything. But anyway, every one of my students, I always tell them, you've got to read that book.
Yes, I didn't know that about the blue version. I know what, I'm going to look for it, and
you can get it on Amazon.
Yes, and read it, because I am familiar with the red or orange version. And I also read the Swami Kriyananda's autobiography, who was a disciple of Yogananda, and he broke away and built the Ananda village in or close to Sacramento in the USA. So
I think that's the one. I think that's the one that got the original manuscript out there. I think that's him. Yeah, not Sacramento. That rings a bell. Yeah, that's him.
Yes, and I recently interviewed Indra Rinsler, which was one of the first people who joined Kriyananda into building that community. So we had also an interesting discussion. Yes.
Wow. How old? What age is this person?
He's, I think, in his mid-70s right now.
Oh.
He looks amazing.
Right.
He goes to India every year. So, yeah. And I know that you mentioned the enlightened teacher you got in contact with. And funny enough, or maybe it's not funny, but her name is Kundalini. Am I right?
Yeah.
And
how do you know her?
I don't know her. I just listened to your videos. I read about you. So I do my research. So that's why I was trying to put everything together.
No, it makes my heart sing just hearing her name.
How was that first interaction and the journey after that?
Oh, good question. Well, when I was in Kuala Lumpur, I said to Bob Proctor, and you know who Bob Proctor is, I guess, anyone who doesn't. Yeah. But this is a long time before The Secret. We worked together. I said to him, I've got this heart glow all the time. I'm just in love with life, and I don't know what to do next. What do I do next? I've been reading these books and Yogananda, and it's just, I believe I think it means that my heart chakra is slightly activated. Obviously not fully activated, because I'd be not wondering what it was anymore. And he said, you've got to find an enlightened teacher. He said, I had one in Toronto. He said he left the body a long time ago, but he said, I studied with him for 6 years before he left the body. He said, that's what you need to do, find someone who's enlightened. And I said, how do I do that? And he said, well, you just ask the universe, you know, I want a real teacher who's alive. So I started asking people, and because I was living in Asia, I could easily, because I, you know, did seminars and singing and everything in 26 countries. So every time I went somewhere, I'd say, do you know if there's any enlightened teachers alive in this country, in Japan or here or there? And I ended up going to 3 different people. I don't know if they were enlightened or not, but one of them, oh, what's his name? He would have gold come out of his hands and stuff. And I didn't like him. I just thought, well, this is like a magician. I want to have someone who can teach me. And this man isn't teaching or anything. And I don't even think he speaks English. And it was in India, and the accommodations and everything were nasty. And then I went to a Zen teacher who I think may have been enlightened in Japan. And he was so rude. He said, I don't take females. They can't become awakened. You know, he spoke English, but he was really rude. So I was like, I think enlightenment would be happy and joyous, you know, like Yogananda sounds. This is just crankiness. I don't understand. Anyway, so eventually I moved to America. I wanted to start from scratch where nobody knew me. I wanted to challenge myself to get out there in the world. And I traveled by bus and train and sometimes fly to different states every month and did seminars so I could get myself out there again, and concerts. And it was really amazing to be able to do that at the time in my late 30s and mid 30s, I should say. And, you know, get a career going again, started a TV show, did all this at the same time, going to different places and looking for an enlightened teacher. Anyway, and so some people would come over from India, and if I heard about it, I'd go to their event. And then I met someone at an event, who's Johnny Endara, and his teacher was Rama, who was a Mahasiddha, Big Daddy, like Yogananda, and he'd left the body. And so Johnny was looking for another enlightened teacher because, you know, he'd already had an enlightened teacher. He's like, I can't not have this light sent to me until I'm awakened. And so I met him at a yoga event, and he said, do you think this teacher was enlightened? And I said, why would you ask me? Because I didn't know him. And he said, I feel like you would know. I said, I don't know if he is or not. I know he's talking about knowing 𝗙𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗡 and all this sort of thing, but he's not my teacher. I know that because I don't feel anything for him, you know, any love or anything. And then about 2 months later, Johnny called me and he said, one of the students of Rama, he said, and I know her. He said that I've been told that she's become enlightened and she's going to start teaching students. So she was teaching at a, you know, just $5 event in Balboa Park in San Diego. And we went into this hall and there's just a couple of lights, you know, just 2 lights, lamps. They're only just lamps. She's sitting on her chair and she's like at least 10 years younger than me. And I just felt this wave of ecstasy go through me. And I felt such love and my eyes were tearing up and I could hardly drive home, you know. And so I begged her to let me be a student of hers, and I became a student of hers for a long time. And it was amazing, you know. We flew all around the world. I mean, it was really strict, but, you know, we're going to Egypt. It's going to cost this much. We're going to next month. It'll be, you know, next week I'll be teaching in San Francisco. You've got to be there. You know, I'd be like, but I just gave up everything else because I couldn't bear to not have her as my teacher. And so she had about 100 students in that 10 years. And then she didn't retire, but she's doing something else now because it's really, really hard being a teacher and looking after all these students. But for some reason, because I've been, like she says to me now, because I've been on stage in my life, I can handle the attention without feeling sick or getting drained too much from people's attention, because I do transmit light to people in their photograph or on Zoom. And many of my students from all walks of life, medical, you know what it's like. People say, what are your clients? I said, I don't have clients, I have students, customers, whatever you want to call it. But they're your soul family. because it's not a demographic. It is someone who is soul sick and is searching for their awakening, which is the purpose of life, is enlightenment. That is the entire purpose. And so the students that are attracted to me are like, one of them who's now in early enlightenment, he's been with me for about 12 years, William, he's in Ireland. He's and another one, Charles, he definitely went into early enlightenment as well after a few years. And like William says, I was looking for a teacher. He said, I didn't know about enlightenment per se, but I was looking for someone because I was so unhappy, but I did feel a love for spirit, you know. And he said when he was looking up on YouTube, and I've got many, many videos on YouTube, and when he found me, he's like, he couldn't stop watching or listening to me teaching, but he said, I couldn't understand why I was attracted to her, because I was expecting an aging Asian man, not this irreverent Aussie rock singer. But he said, I could feel light and I could see different morphing of your face. And he said it was really fascinating. And so he never left. So the students that come to me generally have been with me for, you know, many, many years. Get new students all the time as well, of course. But yeah, so one of the things I love to do is to, first thing I don't want anyone to suffer. I love the way that Yogananda used to teach. We've got to have spirituality and substance, you know, and wealth, because otherwise you're not in balance. And like Mother Meera, beautiful enlightened teacher from India who lives in Germany, like she says, God wants you to have everything that will give you happiness. And I concur 100%, because if someone is struggling and they're always worried about not having enough money for their family or to go somewhere nice or to buy a decent, you know, safe car, well, then they're suffering. And it's very, very challenging to be on a spiritual path if you're suffering and you have lack. So the affirmation songs, I love to get people into that first, because it goes into their subconscious mind 300 times faster than just saying an affirmation. So your doubting mind never has a chance to reject that new positive thought. So I start people with that, and I teach them simple meditation to start with, and then we go deeper and deeper. And of course, I teach Kriya Yoga as well, because that is vitally important to your awakening. So your Ida and your Pingala along your Sushumna are even. You've got to always be able to have both nostrils clear and open. And my teacher didn't teach that, but someone mentioned it once to me, and I know that Yogananda and Babaji taught it, but I had an experience of a past life, and I remembered doing Kriya Yoga, and I just knew how to do it. So I teach that as well. And of course, chakra meditation, but visualization, getting people out of the realm of the Maya, of the, not the world. The world is beautiful. The earth is Mother Earth. She's beautiful. But the collective consciousness of the planet, to get them above that so that they can silence their mind for a long time. Because when you can silence those thoughts and you go through that stargate and you have those beautiful spiritual experiences, you will never, ever again regret putting all that effort, because people who say meditation is easy are trying to sell you something. It is not easy, but it's worth it once you get there. Once you go into your first gentle samadhi, well, then your whole life changes, your world changes, everything changes, and it's worth your entire life to have those experiences, because that's why we're here.
Yes, indeed. So in other words, breath work is an important part of what you are teaching, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I always say to do the Kriya Yoga breathing first. And then I teach them there's certain music, not my music, other people's music that isn't too popular, but it's meditation music. And I meditate like my teacher did. She meditated on it for it to become really clear. And then I get them to listen to that when they're meditating, so that they can block out the rest of the world. And then they can feel what they're feeling, big, headset. And then after that, I always say, then after you've finished listening to the music, so really, really focusing on the music to get rid of thought, then you can do your Om Mani Padme Hums if you need to, or just go into stillness, absolute silence, using those headphones that take away all outside sound. So you can just be there until eventually the breath stops. The body is circulating its oxygen without you having to breathe. Because there is no thought, there is no breath. And it's interesting, though, when some of my students have got to that stage, and then they're like, they think, oh my God, I'm not breathing. And then they're out of that meditation. That used to happen to me all the time. You're like, as soon as your mind is on again, oh, I can't, I'm not breathing.
Yes, indeed. And we all know the saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. So are you still open for those who are looking for an enlightened teacher?
Oh, yeah. I have new students all the time. Yeah. All ages too.
That's good to hear. Michele, what is your concept or opinion about consciousness?
Well, consciousness is everything. Consciousness is, we are immortal consciousness. We live forever, in many lives, in many different dimensions. So consciousness is our soul, our diamond. I'm not talking about the mind, but consciousness, being conscious, being awake, is when your diamond has become clear of all those old thoughts that get you to think in the past or get you to react in the future. So consciousness is everything. It is, you are one with everything. It's God. Immortal consciousness. We take our consciousness wherever we go after we leave this body, and we don't complain about it, because no one's going to complain about getting a new car, are they?
No. Yes. I heard you talk about how can we strengthen our intuition. Do you have any tips on how can we do that, please?
Oh, yes, intuition. Good one. Yeah, intuition. We'll go back to the diamond. You're obviously a very highly spiritual person. I just was really looking forward to this podcast today. Anyway, as light, if you find an enlightened teacher who can transmit light to you, that assists to release those lines of attention from emotions that you've been feeling, or past life emotions even, that you've taken on. So you've got to release that diamond, because people can't feel their divine presence, their immortal consciousness, their higher self, their enlightenment, whatever you choose to call it. They can't feel their divine because their diamond is clogged with all the human emotions and all the things and hurts and subjects and all these different things. I did a great video for my students to explain exactly how that works, how when you meditate, when you listen to positive things, when you do something that's for your highest good and you don't want to do it, when you do that, when you push through the terror barrier and do something you're afraid of doing, when you just clean your room until it's spotless, making your house zen, all these things that you're doing are for consciousness, are for you to get brighter and brighter so that you can feel your divine presence, because your divine presence is omniscient wisdom. Everything that has ever been known or will be known, everything that's been created by the divine, by infinity, by eternity, by the enlightenment that animates our very being. And so when your diamond becomes clearer and clearer, and when you can stop thought in meditation, well, then everything that is required for you to know will be known. You will know whether to turn left or right. And intuition is not emotion, people. It is a very small, you just hear it. You just hear it within yourself. I've heard it in a voice. Once upon a time, son, don't go there. I was like, son. Anyway, in a big, deep voice, like you'd think, Charlton Heston or something. It was very, very funny at the time. But now it's just, I absolutely know when I'm speaking to someone, your intuition knows. You don't judge any longer. There is no more judgment, which means there's no fear. When you see someone yelling at someone, you can see when you've got a clear diamond, you bear witness to who they truly are. Oh no, this soul is a beautiful soul. They've just had a bad day. Maybe someone in there died or someone left them, but you can see people. You can see who they are. You bear witness with no judgment. And if someone's coming from a dark place, you see that too. And you, again, you don't judge, but you know, don't go there. You know what to say, when to say it, and when not to say it, which is also extremely important, when not to say something. And when you feel like this love, it's not wishy-washy, it's strong, it's omnipotent power going through you. And that love can create anything in life. It can make someone's life, it can heal someone completely from any disease. It can bring people into a higher state. As the consciousness is higher, that means the diamond's getting clearer. You're vibrating at a frequency. And now these things that we used to teach have been proven by neuroscientists in Berkeley, at Johns Hopkins. I mean, all the studies that have been done are fascinating, because people think that that entire brain is only used for 10%. God doesn't make mistakes. The brain is used. As you become enlightened, you feel the Shakti. You can actually go into your body and see the little lightning, like bright blue lightning through the brain. It's fascinating. And those different parts of the brain that light up in meditation, they are getting your consciousness expanded as that frequency, that hum that you feel. The hum 24/7, your whole body humming with God, with love, with this light, that with the vibration, that high divine frequency, which can create anything. This is all an illusion, and anything can be changed in this illusion. And any suffering can be released, which is the number one thing that I'm about. I do not ever wish to see someone suffering. It's not necessary.
Yes, and this one goes hand in hand with what you also said in the past, that we are 100% God governed. And if we all accept this type of statement, I think our lives will change forever, our environment will change forever, and the perception of the world will change forever. So most of us are still struggling with this type of concept, because it's all about me, and not about we and God, as you said. So that's the struggle, the pull and the tug of war.
You got me. God governed. Just hearing those words, because people think of it this way. I'm going to be doing a new app all about prayer and meditation. I've got two great apps that explain everything. We've just released Manifestation Through the Power of Mysticism video book, the world's first video book. So you get to be engrossed in hearing my voice talk about all these different topics, amazing topics. And everything I teach, Claudia, I teach in a very simple way. Mwah, kiss. Keep it simple and spiritual. Because when teachers are saying, oh, you've got to do this and you've got to become that before I can teach you, it's like, it's ridiculous. I love the story about the monk. Each monk was given an affirmation or a mantra, I should say, mantra. And when the kitchen hand monk was given his mantra, the monk said, now, you will never become enlightened if you give this away to anybody else. This is secret, sacred, and it's just for you. And it is an enlightenment mantra. And so the kitchen boy ran out to the streets straight away and said, everybody, here's the mantra for your enlightenment. You can have it. You can have it. So I'm like that monk. I believe that everyone must be allowed to know the secrets of the universe, because it's beautiful, and it's not something that should be hidden from anybody, because everybody at an unconscious level understand. And even if they're closet spiritual people, they want to know. They want to know. I remember when my father was ill, he never, ever wanted to talk to me about meditation or anything, but he thought he was going to die. And he said to me, do you really believe we go on? Is there a heaven? And to make him just feel better, I didn't say all the truth about different dimensions that we go to. I just said, of course there is. Of course there is. You live forever. You really do. And he said, I thought you would know. He said, that makes me feel a little better. He said, because death is pretty scary. And I said, well, it's really not. You know, you live forever. You really do. Yeah. So I just said it like that. I wasn't going to go into, because they know I teach, but my family in Australia don't know anything about my enlightenment. My mother had an experience once with me where I was in the living room at 4 a.m. and she came out to make a cup of tea, and I was meditating, and apparently she could see light around me, and she nearly fainted. She freaked out. And I just lied to her, and I said, oh, no, there was a big truck that went by, and the lights from the truck must have flashed into the living room. But there wasn't, because it's a cul-de-sac where she lives. And she said, that must have been it. What were you doing? You're meditating again, are you? Oh. And she just went back into her bedroom, and she sort of didn't talk to me for a couple of days. She was like a bit wary. So you don't tell children what they're not ready to hear. But particularly when it's a family member, it's like the backyard syndrome. I'm sure you know about that, Claudia. It's like if it's someone you really know and you've known them their entire life, particularly if it's your child, it's very, very hard to understand the huge changes. When I go to Australia and visit my family, I act as normally as I can. And, you know, like my sister once said, you're not blinking. You're not blinking. Why aren't you blinking? And I was like, oh, it's just something in my eye. She's like, what are you looking at? Because it's very hard to not go into a trance or, you know, deep meditation when I'm not talking. It immediately wants to take me away. So I do my best to act normal, whatever that is.
So if you want, you can give me your sister's email, and you know, I'll send her an email with this interview just by mistake and see what she says later on.
No.
And going back to the kitchen monk, you know, it's similar to what Jesus tried to do in his time. He was telling everyone to do certain things, go follow me, meditate, you know, find God, or search for God at least, and see if you're going to find him, and listen to what I have to say. But not everyone believed him. And the same nowadays. I mean, there are so many, let's say, not enlightened people, but light workers who have podcasts like me. And not all of them have large audiences because people don't believe it. People are still stuck in their day-to-day life. And that time might come at one point in their existence, but not now. And going back to the family and the children, our children, older boys, 25 and 19, know that we meditate, we go to energy healing workshops. And even
you've got today, a 25-year-old?
Yes.
You look so young.
Thank you.
See, meditation makes you young, people.
Yes. And I'm trying to pull them into a third eye opening meditation, just there first to see how they're going to react. They don't necessarily believe in what we are doing, but slowly they are coming around. And that's enough for me for them to be exposed to what we are doing and see an example in how we manifest and behave around the house.
Very, very good. That reminds me of one of my students, Lena. She's in Sweden, and she's got two boys, and she's been with me as a student for about 12 years, I think. And she, you know, anything that was ever happening with her boys, she would send me their photograph, and I would transmit light to help, to assist. And now the eldest, he's 18, and about 6 months ago, he said he was listening to Lena when she was on a Zoom with me, with all the students. I have a great big screen in front of me and everyone's there. It's beautiful, beautiful soul family from all over the world. Anyway, he said, can I come on one of those Zooms, Mum? They lived in New Zealand as well, so they have a bit of a New Zealand accent. And now he's a student and he's loving it. And it's really interesting. The older students, they're all like, oh, isn't that precious? He's really getting into his meditation. Look at him smiling. So it's interesting that it's a real family. It's a real family when you have students and you get together like that. It's just beautiful. And it's not always the case. With Kundalini, some of her students only came to her not because of love for her, but because they were with Rama, her teacher, and they wanted the light. So they're like, oh, I may not like her because they remember her as just a student, but I was one of her first students. So eventually she used to teach them separately in a different date. And eventually she put us all together. And that is when I found it wasn't like a big love fest anymore. Because the students that had been with Rama were really jealous of us because we were all happy. We were hurt students. And they didn't like that. So, once Kundalini actually said to me, can you not meditate? Because you go into samadhi and then you've got tears rolling down your face, and the other Rama students throwing energy at you that is just horrific. And I said, I can't feel it. I couldn't. It didn't worry me. But anyway, so it's not always the case, because some people, you've probably heard this before. Some people are like, oh my God, I don't want to meditate. You know what? I like eat, pray, love. They're just like, I'll just go to a meditation place in India or somewhere and I'll just, do it for a month. And then I'll be able to become more spiritual. But if you're not building up your light within you and you just go somewhere with a whole bunch of strangers and you've got to go into silent meditation, you can go insane because it's not your natural. You've got to do it gradually so that not everyone is born a bhakti. I'm a bhakti. I was born a lover of God. And that's the easiest way to become free and to meditate, because you're doing out of love for the divine, whatever that divine is to you, with that heart glow. But it doesn't matter if you're not a bhakti. I teach so many different methods so that people that are more left-brained can still really focus and know that what they're doing is for their health. Their blood pressure will be low. I remember when I was in America and I was going for my green card, so I had to get a medical examination, and I hadn't been to a doctor forever. Anyway, and the doctor said to me, you're either nearly dead or you meditate, because your blood pressure is so low. And he said, I bet you it's because you meditate. And he ended up becoming a student. So
Nice.
So that was interesting.
Yes, and going back to the love between a guru and a student or a devotee, I think it's very hard for a Westerner to understand that type of love between Yogananda and his master Swami Sri 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗓, or between Sri 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗓 and his master Lahiri Mahasaya. It's very hard for us to understand that type of love. In the end, Daya Mata and past presidents of self-realization, I think they loved Yogananda to the similar love that he had for his master back in India and afterwards, after he passed. But otherwise, I think our concept of love and loving a master, other than, let's say, Jesus or God, that concept of God, it's quite hard.
That has never been my experience. but yeah, my students, I love that I'm Australian, I'm irreverent, and that I was a rock singer for years and years, music videos, the whole 9 yards, because I don't want them to put me on a pedestal ever. I want them to know that if this person who left home when she was 15 could become what I became, and also the success that I had with lack of education and all the rest of it, it's got nothing to do with intellect or education. It's got to do with your past lives and who you are and how intuitive you are. Because I've traveled the world on my own in Muslim countries everywhere and never felt afraid, never had any fear for my life or anything. I just always knew I was safe. Like Bob Proctor used to say, I don't like you going, him and his wife, Linda, I don't like you going to the markets in all these Asian countries. He said, because I was quite attractive and quite young at the time, he said, someone's going to kidnap you. And I said, that will never happen. Never. And I knew it would never happen. And it never did, obviously.
Yes.
But yes, the love I have for my teacher is intense and immense. I adore her. And every day of my life, I thank Kundalini with all of my being for being my teacher, and I thank Johnny as well for introducing me to her, because my life is purposeful and meaningful, and it's full of love. And everyone, when Claudiu before said God governed, what that means is immense. If you are 100% God governed, which you are, well, that means that omnipotent power, the only power there is that created everything, the omniscient wisdom that knows everything and created everything, which is omnipresent, all of that power and all of that love is governing you. So if you say you see someone on the street and you can't stop because of traffic to give them some money, you say that person is 100% God governed. I know they are, and I'm grateful for that. That's a very powerful prayer to give someone. And you just see them happy and off the streets. Visualizing your loved ones happy and healthy is extremely powerful. This new video book, we spent a long time. I wrote the whole book, and then I did the audio, and then we did visuals for it. So you're looking at all these amazing visuals on this video, listening to me and reading along at the same time. Not one iota of the mind can interfere. So you're taking all of this information, and the light's being transmitted to you through it at the same time as you're watching it. You're taking in all that so quickly. So you're learning about meditation, money, intuition, everything you can imagine I've covered in the manifestation video book. And it's an app as well as something you can just download from your laptop. Say, for example, you're given a spiritual message and you really get it. So you fall in love with that author or the teacher, but it's the message that counts. That's where your consciousness is. Your consciousness connected to the message because it knew it. There's something when someone says something about truth, about spirit, that you feel it in the marrow of your bone. You feel it, you've just heard something that's true. And so it's like a sign. I was driving along Sydney one day and there's this huge sign that said, you can do it. And I just went into spasms. I was like, I can do it. I can do it. It was just a sign. It wasn't, I don't even know what it was for. And I went straight home and wrote the song, You Can Do It. Because I realized, God, people aren't told enough, especially in Australia, that you can do it. You can do anything. It's more the tall poppy syndrome in Australia. I think it's like that a little bit in Toronto too, a bit more of the English mentality as far as when people get really successful. It's like, Australians want it. Don't talk about your success. That's egotistical. We don't want to hear about it. Be successful, but don't say. Whereas in America, I love America because you can say, I love Australians too. Of course I do. But it's not egotistical to state a fact. If I say millions of people have heard my Magnet to Money song, they have. That's not being egotistical. It's just telling you a fact.
Yes.
So I like people being able to stretch themselves. And like Bob Proctor always said, jump over the terror barrier, do it.
And you mentioned Australia, Canada, and I can add to that UK and also USA into what I'm going to say next. Because in the last 3 years, human rights were trampled on, government overreaches responsibilities. And I was wondering if you have any intention of drawing into your programs and positive affirmation programs any existing or would-be politicians, because we really have to change their mindset before going into the office and taking care of the things they're supposed to take care of.
No, I don't target any particular field of people. I just let them come to me, the souls that are attracted to come to me. I don't try to sell myself to any organizations or anything like that ever. I used to teach at huge big events at, Remax and Motorola and stuff like that, but I don't do that anymore. I just allow the people that want to come to me to come to me. And because this world is such a low evolution, people think is once they start to get into meditation and spirituality, they feel like the whole world is in a higher evolution, but it's not. This world is still babies. The wars going on, politicians shouldn't even need politicians. We still have to have police so that people won't drink and drive. It's like they still need the 10 commandments, fear in them. And anyone who wants to be a politician, I mean, I loved Bernie Sanders. He's the only one I ever liked. He was the only one I liked. But no, I stay clear of that because it's a very innocuous, nefarious type of business to be in. And it's, these huge, big companies that start all these rumors and sicknesses and things that aren't real. And I mean, it spreads madness as far as I'm concerned. So I would never want a politician as a student. No.
Thank you. Michele,
no.
What do you love best about Australia? And have you ever paid your tribute to the Uluru location?
Oh, I've been there, yeah. What we used to call Ayers Rock, Uluru. Yeah, Johnny's been to Uluru as well with Kundalini. We used to go to different countries every year with Kundalini and meditate around, spiritual places. It's like she used to call them the chakras of the world. And Uluru is amazing. I mean, I was born in the outback of Australia. So I have witnessed the Aboriginals' beautiful dancing and spirit. And I was always so attracted to them because even as just a little girl, because, this in the outback, people would either look at the Aboriginals that were just lying drunk under the bridges, but they forgot about the ones that don't do that and go on walkabout. And they are the oldest known human in the world. Over 66,000 years, Aboriginals have walked this earth. And so Australia is incredibly spiritual because of the Aboriginals. And they're not treated like they should be. They never were. They tried to integrate the Aboriginals with, their children being taken away and stuff back in the 40s and 50s. Horrible stuff. It's much better now. They've been given all their lands back and a lot more money and they're looked after. But that's my favorite thing about Australia is the Aboriginals, their spirituality, the mysticism behind it. It is absolutely, literally out of this world. And it's this deep spirituality with this older races that keep this planet going because there's so many people that are still at such a low evolution. I mean, why do you need police? Why do you need politicians? Why do we need different borders and countries? There are other world planes that I have been to that don't have any of that rubbish, just highly spiritual planes. But this earth is kept balanced through enlightenment and through these deep races. But besides the Aboriginals of Australia, because about 75% of Australia is deep, deep desert. And I mean desert, like cracked anthills, like 20 foot high, these huge ants. Don't want to, the most dangerous spiders and snakes and everything in the world. It's incredible. And hardly any people that live there because most people are coast dwellers because of the desert. And Australia has everything. It's as big as America. It has snow country where you can go skiing. It has a beautiful barrier reef in Queensland where you can go diving, absolutely magnificent rainforests. And the beaches, and I've been all over the world, the beaches are the most beautiful beaches you will ever find anywhere in the world. They are incredibly gorgeous. So it's such an old country, it's one of the first that came up, which is why the Aboriginals are so old. But something I love, I'm going to say something positive about Australians now because they are lovely people. Australians are extremely friendly. They are loving. They are honest. That's why some people think it's a bit blunt. They'll tell you what they think. If you don't want a compliment, don't ask them what they think, because they'll tell you the truth. But I kind of love that.
Yes,
and they're fun loving. They're fun loving. Pretty much party animals, Australians.
Yeah, I did visit shortly in 2005, and I liked the country. I had to drive from Sydney to Canberra and then to Newcastle, and I saw a little bit of the country, not the entire territory, but I liked it. So maybe someday I'll go back for the beaches.
Oh, the beaches are incredible. I mean, if you go to Byron Bay, you'll just be swept away by the beauty in the rainforest. It's just incredible. Barrier Reef is incredible.
Michele, you mentioned you travel all over the world, and I would like to know, if possible, if you ever tried plant medicine, either before or after you met Kundalini.
Plant medicine?
Yes.
No. I just, I'm extremely healthy because I work out all the time and I eat really beautiful organic fruits and vegetables, and, so not necessary to look for any sort of medicine.
This is what I was thinking. It was psychedelics for increased consciousness and connection with a different realm.
No, I've had some students that used to do that I had to help, because back in the 60s, there were all these legal experiments going on in universities with LSD. And what it does is it can bring people temporarily into a higher state of consciousness. But when they come back from that trip, they are in a lower state of consciousness and they'll have holes in their ethereal body. It's very, very, very dangerous. And yeah, you want to be able to go into those higher states of consciousness where you see the lights glowing and the colors beautiful through your diamond becoming clear, not through drugs, ever, ever, ever. Very, very dangerous work.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Michele, we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
Well, I've got something to give away to your friends. If they go to Michele Blood, Michele, not two L's, MicheleBlood.com/spiritually inspired, they will get a chapter of the video book, so you get to watch it, called Are You a Mystic?, where I'm asking you questions and telling you what is down there, so that you can work out, am I supposed to be on a mystical path or not, spiritual path? It's really fun and fascinating, that chapter. And at the end of each chapter, there's a music video with one of my affirmation songs. So you're getting all this positive input, which is great. And you're also going to get the Magic of Affirmation Power ebook and my album that I did with Bob Proctor, Songs for Success, which are the most powerful affirmation songs to do with prosperity and money and synergy, and just lots and lots of different songs to fill your consciousness, your brain, your mind, your heart, cells of your being with positivity that will put you into a higher frequency just by listening, which is what it's all about. And plus it's music, so it's fun.
Thank you very much for the gifts.
You'll get all of that for free. All of that for free.
Thank you for the gifts and for everything you do. Thank you once again.
Well, thank you for this wonderful time together. I don't feel like it's been an interview. We've just had a lovely conversation about God.
Thank you. Yes, always. I'm willing to have a conversation about God. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Don't forget, leave a comment, share it, like it. Visit 𝗙𝗢𝗥𝗡.com and spiritualinspired.ca. Until next time, love and gratitude.
Before you go, please, if you want to receive some amazing high vibrational success meditation, tons and tons of free products, go to micheleblood.com/links.